So what do President Trump's newly declassified documents actually say about threats to U.S. elections? CNN's Marshall Cohen is part of the team reviewing hundreds of pages of documents, and he's joining us right now. All right, Marshall, what are we learning?
Hey, Fred, good morning. We were going through these hundreds of pages last night while the White House was releasing these declassified documents. Look, we're journalists. We like it when the government declassifies intel reports so that we can learn what's going on behind the scenes. But with the Trump administration and with this White House, we have seen that sometimes when they put out a claim, there is a lot of context that needs to be added to give the full picture. So let me tick through three big buckets here of what we learned and what you need to know to really understand what's going on. So as Betsy just mentioned, there were vulnerabilities that the White House highlighted about voting machines and claimed that there are weaknesses that foreign adversaries could exploit. And that is what the documents do show, that there are weaknesses in the system that could be taken advantage of. But the documents do not even assert that foreign adversaries ever actually took that final step, hacked any machines, and changed any results, which is a very key distinction. Moving on to the topic of non-citizens voting in U.S. elections, which is one of the president's fixations, even though there is no evidence of it occurring on a widespread basis. The documents do discuss allegations of non-citizens on the voter rolls at a far higher number than we've already known, something to the tune of 250,000 citizens, non-citizens on the rolls in some key states. But number one, there are some issues with how that data was collected, which could lead to a lot of false positives. And the documents released last night, importantly, do not provide any evidence of illegal voting. To be clear, there's a difference. If you're on the voter roll, that doesn't mean you always go and vote. And if someone who is not supposed to be on the rolls is on the rolls, it's a very different story if they then go walk into a polling place and try to cast a ballot. There are a lot of safeguards in place to stop that from happening. Finally, Fred, on the topic of China, this was a big one. The documents do show that China over the years has obtained millions of voter records on American voters. But the context here is pretty important. Yes, the intelligence community accuses China of obtaining that through hacking and illicitly, but also a lot of those voter records are available for sale. A lot of these are public records that the states sell to anybody who wants to buy them. And importantly, the documents do not show that China actually tampered with any of those voter databases, deleting a record, manipulating a record. Yes, they have the information, but it's not clear that they actually ever did anything with it to hurt our elections. Fred?
All right, all very important distinctions. Marshall Cohen, thank you so much.
Steve Bannon. He texted CNN and he said, "We need a national security emergency about the midterm elections immediately. This is a powerful predicate for that." Derek, did you hear a powerful predicate for a national emergency around elections?
I did not. I heard things that we're very familiar with in the United States, and that should be causes for concern. We are concerned about foreign interference in our elections. We should be concerned about aging voting machines and things that need to be updated. We should be concerned if there's some evidence that there are non-citizens on the voter rolls, but at the same time, we've got lots of checks, lots of ability to update systems, lots of ability to use kind of the existing infrastructure with maybe a little extra cash from Congress to be able to sort of patch up those systems. But on the whole, many of the things do not suggest an emergency is at stake.
There are some that argue that the SAVE Act and what the president is asking for isn't about patching up a system, but replacing it. The Washington Post opinion section saying voter ID doesn't need Washington's meddling. They say the problem with the legislation is not that it tries to verify identity or citizenship. They say the problem is that it replaces every state's voting law with a national code. Do you think this is why senators have been loath to pass it?
Yeah, I think this is why people like Senator Mitch McConnell, they don't think that Washington should set a one-size-fits-all solution for elections. And people like Lisa Murkowski recognize when you say that you need proof of citizenship and you need to go to your county, place of registration and show them a birth certificate. That disadvantages the rural voters in parts of Alaska who might have registered online. So I think there's a reason why you're seeing Republican pushback. And it's good faith disagreement about what we think the best way forward is. Should we have more federal safeguards or should we leave it to the states? And I think it's a reason why the Save America Act is probably not going to go forward.
Finally, what I heard last night is someone who does not trust his intelligence apparatus, who talked about things that were being withheld or obfuscated. Given the cuts that they've made, the changes they've made, do you think the U.S. is actually in a position to protect its elections from those agents? Will those agencies be able to protect the elections?
So I certainly hope so. We hope that with all of the focus that he gave on China last night and all of the focus on foreign interference, we want to make sure that we don't have hackers trying to infiltrate our systems in the United States. And we know there have been Iranian plots against the president's life, and we know that Russia has tried to interfere in our elections and a wide range of foreign actors. But at the same time, you want to have somebody in that role in national intelligence who is competent, qualified, capable, Senate confirmed, and somebody who can sort of gain the trust of not just the intelligence community, but also the president himself. And so hopefully we'll have a candidate in the near future who bridges that divide and who is committed to bringing us secure elections.
Okay, that's Derek Muller. Thank you so much for your analysis. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It feels a bit odd, a bit old to be standing here with this in July 2026. But we are a few minutes away from a speech by President Trump on election security. Sadly, we have no choice but to be skeptical when this president talks elections, because what he says, at least what he has said in the past, is often just not true. He still talks a lot about this one, rigged or stolen, he likes to say. So let's take a quick trip back in time. Number one, Joe Biden won. 306 electoral votes to 232. You know how this works. The blue states went Biden, the red states went Trump. So after, the president, of course, said it was rigged, said it was stolen, said he was going to fight, filed a lot of lawsuits, more than 60 lawsuits. And so in many states, why in many states? Well, let's say, for example, the president had won a case in Georgia. That would have changed the math, but not enough. Joe Biden's still the president. So let's say the president won his case in Arizona. That would have changed the math, but not enough. Joe Biden still would have won the election. So maybe Pennsylvania. That would have been it. It would have taken at least 3 states, lawsuits in at least 3 states to go Trump's way to change the election results, which is why those lawsuits were filed in so many of the battleground states. But as we switch to the other map here, let's go through some of that. The challenge for the president tonight is to look forward and talk about new things, right? Because of why? Well, let's go through some of those lawsuits. In the past, when the president has said rigged elections, judges have told him, sorry. Let's go out to Arizona. Let's look here. This is the case versus the governor out there, filed by Trump allies. The judge said this: allegations that find favor in the public sphere of gossip and innuendo cannot be a substitute for earnest pleadings and procedure. In other words, you did not make your case. In Pennsylvania, bring this up here. Here we go. Trump versus Pennsylvania. This judge was appointed by Donald Trump. This is a unanimous decision of the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. Free, fair elections are the lifeblood of our democracy. Charges require specific allegations and then proof. We have neither here. That, a Trump-appointed judge in Pennsylvania. There were more, but let's just finish with Georgia and bring up this ruling. Again, a Trump appointee here on the federal bench in Georgia versus the Secretary of State. This is Lynn Wood, a Trump ally, filed this suit to halt the certification at literally the 11th hour would breed confusion and potential disenfranchisement that I find no basis in fact and law. Again, there were more than 60 of these. Most of the judges threw them out with scorn. That was 2020. Again, the White House tells us tonight will be forward-looking, and that the president, presentation will include newly declassified documents that he will say proves more has to be done to protect American elections that way. Well, Count our next guest is understandably skeptical.